Okay, so now we're going to talk a bit more about the arms. Has Nicoletta talked about what to do for the arms of a character yet? So this is brand new. Okay, so just like the IK system that we've created for the legs, we can also apply the same thing to the hand, where we can make it so you designate a point and your hand will follow the point. Which, I mean, it usually works, but there may be positions where it's actually quite difficult to actually control your hands with the IK position, because as you notice, if you move there will be certain positions where the IK controllers may make it difficult to animate the hand, and you want to do the old-fashioned FK method, which the difference between the IK and FK is IK stands for inverse kinematics, and inverse kinematics means you designate one point and your hand will automatically follow where you drag it. Forward kinematics is kind of like the opposite, where you actually have to control each joint manually, like a hierarchy. So for forward kinematics, you have to rotate the shoulder, and then the elbow, and then the wrist. Whereas inverse kinematics, you just drag one point around and your hand will automatically follow. But you want to have the ability to have both options on your rig, because some animators prefer animating with one kind of control scheme, or there could be some certain gestures that is only really smoothly doable with one of the two control schemes. So in order to do so, we're going to need to actually what we're going to do is, so right now, as you can see, I have the arm, and what I'm going to need to do is, I'm actually going to need to make duplicates of the arm. And so I'm going to make duplicates of the arm, and then however we control the duplicates will then determine the results of how the original arm will look like. So it's kind of like, I'll draw the structure out so it makes a bit more sense. Alright, so here on the board. So the torso looks something like, you have the spine, and then here's the elbow joint. So this is the shoulder joint. So what we're going to do, so by default, we have the elbow joint, and we have the wrist joint. So what we are going to do, and then you have whatever your hand is over there. So what we're going to do is, oh, we don't have black, that's pretty annoying. Well, we have different colors. Okay, anyways, what I'm going to do is, so we're going to take the entire segment from the shoulder to the arm, and we're going to make two duplicates. So now we have two joint chains that looks just like the arm. So what we're going to do is, we're going to apply FK controls to one of the layers. So, for FK controls means you apply a controller to each joint of the arm so that you can manipulate each joint manually. And then for the other duplicate, you'll do like an IK constraint where it'll look something like, it'll have like this mix or something through it, where how this duplicate works is you move this controller and it will move the rest of the arm automatically. And then you also need to create a pull vector as well for the arms as well. Afterwards, we are going to combine the results and apply them. We're going to do something unique with an orient constraint this time. So you know how for an orient constraint, if you move one object, it influences the rotation of another object. But what happens if you apply multiple objects to the same orient constraint? What will happen is, by default, if you move the FK arm in one position, move the IK arm to another position, by default, the orient constraint will take 50% of each weight from each joint, which means that it will interpolate the arm to be somewhere in the middle between whatever the two control schemes look like. And then you can shift the you can actually shift the distribution between, do you want the arm to fully follow the IK system or the FK system, which I spouted a lot of words, and it'll probably make a lot more sense once we actually see it on screen. But yeah, that's the base illustration of what we're going to do. So, you have a hint of what's going on? Okay, so we'll see how this works later. Okay, so what I am going to do is, so back to where we were with the arms. I'm going to take this arm and I'm going to make two duplicates. So I am going to go to the outliner,
and then I'm going to take the shoulder, and I'm going to duplicate it twice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make each one an independent group as well. So what I'm going to call this is I'll call this the FK left FK arm group, and then I'll call this the left IK arm group. And in this case, I'm going to make 2 more layers because color coding the different layers makes it a bit easier to visualize what is going on. So I'm going to call this the arm. I'm going to make a new layer called the arm FK layer, and I'm going to make this red. And then for the IK, I'm just going to reuse the leg layer, and I'm just going to call it the IK layer overall because everything IK related will be put in that layer. And then this extra layer, I'll just delete that. Okay, so we have the arm FK, and then we have an IK layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the arm. I'm going to start doing the FK joints first. Which, in order to do the FK joints, I am going to first. Okay, so first I am going to take the. This might be easier if we were to. So I'm going to go to FIK group, and I'm going to delete everything outside of the shoulder, elbow, and the wrist because that is all we're concerned with. We're going to do the same thing with the IK joint as well. Take off all the finger joints from that because we don't need to worry about the finger joints for the duplicate arms. Okay, so now what I am going to do next is I am going to. Okay, so right now I'm going to take the IK layer, and I'm going to hide it. And I'm going to take the original shoulder. I'm going to hide that as well, so we only have the FK arm layer showing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shoulders of each of those joints, and then I'm going to add them all. So there you go. The FK duplicate layer is red and color coded, so it's a bit easier to visualize. All you need to do with the FK is, so right now I made some additional controllers. I made the FK elbow, the FK wrist, and the FK shoulder. So what I'm going to do is you parent the wrist to the elbow, you parent the elbow to the shoulder, and then all you do need to do is you need to apply. Okay, so for the elbow, I'm going to apply a parent constraint because you can shift your elbows around because you can raise and lower your elbow and you can kind of shift it around. Or, well, I mean, it doesn't really apply to this. It doesn't really apply to this though because it's like a segmented robot, so I wouldn't imagine it doing it around. But for the sake of good practice, I'm just going to use a parent constraint anyways. Then for the following joints, I am going to apply orient constraints. And then I will do the same thing with the FK wrist and apply this to the duplicate FK arm. So I'm going to apply that as well. Okay, so and then to make things, and then to make this a little bit less confusing, I'm going to hide the IK controller for now. Okay, so right now for the FK controller, I can rotate it. I can rotate it kind of like the spine, where I can move it in all sorts of directions, and I can move one and then rotate the other, and it works like how you expect it to. Okay. That looks good about me. So, are we all clear on setting the FK controls for the arms? All right. So what we're going to do is, now that the FK controls are set up, I am going to hide the FK controls. I'm going to hide the FK joint. Let's now work on the IK system. So right now I'm going to unhide the IK joint, and I'm going to find the IK wrist I've hid. And now just like the leg, what we're going to do is I'm going to make a pull vector. So snap it to the elbow, and this time move it backwards. I'm going to add it to the controller because you'll also be manipulating this as well. Then, next up, what you're going to do is you are going to take the IK handle tool. You are going to, okay, so to make this easier, I'm going to click on the IK handle group, and I'm going to apply it to the blue layer so we can actually color code it and see it blue. So I'm going to click on the IK handle and make sure that we're back to rotate plane solver. Click on the shoulder, click on the wrist, and now you have the IK handle, and then, so, okay, it's called IK handle 3, we're going to call this left arm IK. Click on the locator, click on the IK handler, and then we're going to apply a pull vector constraint. So it allows two things. Not only you can actually manipulate how the arm bends, but before we do this, I seem to have actually already skipped a step already. Yeah, as you can see, I was moving the arms a bit closer, but you can see the arms jiggling around. That's because I precisely forgot to do one thing. I was supposed to rotate the arm first and actually go to skeleton and set preferred angles so that if we move the arm around, it knows how to actually move the elbow around without doing funky things. So I'm going to apply the IK handle again, L arm IK, pull vector, L arm IK, pull vector. Okay, so now if I were to move it around, okay, this looks about right. See, now I can move the hand inward and out, and it looks about the same level as this pull vector, which then I can drag up and down to adjust the elbows. This is how it's supposed to look like. And then to finalize and to make sure that we can actually manipulate the controller, I am going to then just parent it to the wrist. So now I can move the wrist, and it moves the hand in, and then I can move it with the pull vector as well. Okay, so are we all clear on how the IK system works on the arm? Does it make sense? Or at least visually. Okay, so now the last part. So, okay, time to unhide everything now. So I'm going to unhide the FK joints and the IK joints. Oh, well, the IK is already revealed. Okay, so now that we have the FK joints, what we can do is, yeah, you see we have two different arm joints overlapping each other. We have the FK joints, which I need to unreveal it first. Okay, so we have the FK joints where you can see I can rotate the elbow and then it ceases to move separately. Okay, so now that we have all these joint systems in place, let's apply them to the actual arm now. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to now go back to the original arm and unreveal it. So I have, and then to make things a bit easier, I'm going to drag the two different groups and I'm going to move it so it's at least slightly closer to the L shoulder group, so it's at least a bit more noticeable. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shoulder, and then I am going to click on the shoulder from the FK group and click it on the original joint chain, and now I'm going to click. Let's click orient. Let's click orient constraint. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the elbows. So the order is FK chain first, then the original chain. I'll hit G to repeat it, and then we do the same with the elbow. So all this means now is if I moved the FK controllers, the hand moves normally like you'd expect with the original arm and hand. But what if I were to do the exact same procedure with the IK? So I'm going to do the exact same thing with the IK system. So shoulder, original joint chain. I'm going to repeat the orient constraint. Elbow, original chain, orient constraint. Wrist, original hand, orient constraint that again. Okay, so now I constrain both the FK chain and the IK chain. How does that differ? So now if you notice, if I were to move, if I were to move both the IK and the FK chain, you can kind of see how the original joint chain moves itself, so it's something in the middle between the two IK and the FK systems. So by default, alright, this looks fine, but let's adjust it further so we can make the original arm either follow the IK control scheme or the FK control scheme. The one key factor is the reason why we see 50% interpolation is if we go to the original joint chain and click on the elbow constraint, you can see how here you can see how the L joint weight 0 and L joint weight 1. This means that the single joint is receiving influence from two different objects, and as a result, right now, it's interpolating 50% between each of the two different influences that are applying to the original joint chain. If we were to change one, if we were to take one of this and change it to 1, for example, let's change this. Actually, let's do it on the shoulder. It'll look a lot more sense. See, if I were to change 1 to 0, you can see how now the arm is rotating along the IK joint chain. If I were to reverse it, it's now following the FK system. So now we need to make a mechanism that allows you to switch between the two different control schemes. So this is where we're going to go back to set-driven key that I briefly talked about during Lab 2. Okay, so now let's reset all of the arms. Okay, so in order to create an IK-FK system, you could. It's really up to you to decide what makes sense to you. I mean, let me see. There's probably like some sort of way that you could actually type the word FK or IK or something like that, or 3D print or something like that. I've actually never really used this much. That's actually pretty cool. Anyways, let's create a. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But well, I'm just gonna do something very simple for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make something like. Let's just make like a circle that goes around the. Let's just make a circle that goes around the hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the circle, go to let's manipulate this circle. So let's remove symmetry, and now I'm going to manipulate the vertices so it goes somewhere around the fingers. Okay, yeah, this looks about good enough. And then I am going to take this controller, once again, freeze transformation, add it to the controller, and now let's add it to the controller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to parent the controller to the wrist joint itself. So if I rotate the wrist joint, so if I were to rotate, okay, make sure that it's actually aligned with the hand first, like this. freeze chain, go back to the original foot hand chain, hit parent. Okay, I made it so if I were to rotate the wrist, it moves the controller around. Okay, so I made a new, let's label this as L hand controller, in which the purpose of the hand controller is to make sure that we're actually able to switch between the FK and the IK system. So I'm going to make a new attribute. So in order to make a new attribute, I'm going to go to Attribute Editor. I'm going to add an attribute, and I'm going to call this, let's make a float from 0 to 1, and I'm going to call this the FK IK switch. So now we have the FK IK switch that's an integer. That is definitely an integer. So edit attribute, FK IK switch should be a float. But on the other hand, if 0 to 1 is a bit finicky, you could do 0 to 10. That also works too. Actually, I used to do 0 to 10 as well, so let's just do 0 to 10. So, okay, so what 0 to 10 means is if the IK-FK switch is at 0, let's make that arm completely follow the FK system. However, if the FK-IK switch is at 10, let's make it follow 100% the IK arm system. So what I'm going to do is, in order to do so, we are going to now we're going to go to the set driven key stage. So in order to do so, animation key set driven key set. And the controller is going to be the hand controller, and what is being driven is going to be, let's go to the, we need to find the constraints, shoulder, elbow, and wrist constraint. Those are going to be the driven. Okay, so when FK-IK switch is 0, we want it to follow the FK joint chain. So in order to figure out see which one is the FK joint chain, let's rotate the FK joint chain first. Let's then go to the original constraint. Let's find the elbow, and let's turn this to 0. Okay, so we need to have a pattern of 1, 0 to be the FK joint chain. Okay, so now let's go to the FK joint system, and let's change it. So FK IK system, let's change it so it's 1, 0 for all of them. So we take both constraint values of both 1 and 2 and key it to the FK IK switch being 0. We'll repeat for all the other joints. So make sure it's pattern 1, 0, and make sure that you click and highlight the 2. Last step, 1, 0. Hit key. Alright, so now let's do the reverse. So if the FK-IK switch is at, oh wait, I did a reverse. I did if the FK-IK switch is at 10, it's the FK. Okay, so then in this case, if 10 means FK and 0 means IK. So we're going to go to 0. So then what we're going to do is, so when FK-IK switch is 0, we are going to go and we're going to reverse the order. So instead of 1, 0, it's now the order of 0, 1. Key. 0, 1. Key. 0, 1. Key. Okay, now that we have applied all these constraints, let's see if this magic actually works. So I'll move the IK joint chain. So I'll move the IK all the way up here. I will rotate the FK to be something like down here. Okay, so now let's go to the hand controller and let's go to the FK-IK switch. So it's at 0. You can see it's following the IK system. Then I can change the value, and you can see it, switching between the FK joint chain and the IK joint chain. So, yeah, it works just as I expected to. So, now is it a bit more clear why we create both the FK and the IK joint chain system and how we can switch between the two?
if you need a recap on the procedure, they are outlined exactly as is in the notes that I have, hopefully that you'll have access to, which I posted in the group me. So, yeah, that's the IK joint system. And then you repeat the same steps for the right side. Yes. Yeah, I'll upload it to YouTube and I'll try to do it as soon as possible. But yeah, I'll make it available so not only you have the video, the audio, not only have the notes, but you also have me actually doing the procedure. So in case you want to follow what I've been doing. So yeah, there's the IK. Yep, there's the FK and the IK joint system at works. Oh, and then just to make sure, let's see that it. Okay, so let's take it a step further. Actually, let's take the IK and FK switch a step further, and let's make it so that if it's on IK mode, show only the IK handle, and if it's FK mode, show only the FK controllers, just so there's a little bit less clutter. So what I'm going to do is, once again, go back to set driven key, set driven key, and this time I'm going to control the visibility of the IK and FK controller. So right now we are in IK mode because IK switch is at 0. So what we're going to do is, if IK switch is at 0, then we want, okay, so we're going to load so now the driven is going to be the visibility of all of the controllers that we made. So if we are at IK switch mode, we're going to key the FK IK switch to be on, but for the FK, now let me go back. I hit translate X at the same time, and that's bad. Okay, so let's make sure that we click on just visibility. Okay, so now, and then as for the actual elbow in IK joints, we're going to toggle it to 0. Okay, so now that I have toggled it, and then what I'm going to do is go back to the FK IK switch it to 10, and what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to take the IK wrist, switch this off to 0, key the visibility, so if we're on FK mode, hide the IK controllers, and then to find the FK controllers, we need to go back here and okay, now they are, since I unrevealed it, now they are completely visible, and I'm going to hit the key. Okay, so now, yeah, you can see it in action. You can see how the FK IK switch, you can see how either it's FK mode and I have the 3 controllers for the shoulder, elbow, and hands, or I'm on IK mode and have just the wrist. So, yeah, that looks about good. Oh, and then at the end, once you're done, to make it look a bit less clutter, you can take the IK FK layer and you can just hide them because they're only there just for functionality reasons. In the end, it just looks a bit cleaner like this. Alright, so are there any more questions about the whole ARM setup? I have a feeling this is going to be one of those things where I mentioned quite a lot, but once you actually follow the instructions based on the notes that we have, it should be a lot more easy to follow step by step that way. But, alright, so let's end.